All right, story number two. You know, again, I mentioned in the opening block how people are discovering this halftime show and how people are, you know, finding different nuggets of symbolism that a lot of people just miss when you're watching a Super Bowl. I don't think people are generally used to the Easter eggs and side missions being associated with a Super Bowl performance. And so here's a couple, just briefly, that I do want to take a look at that I thought were pretty interesting. There are things that we haven't talked about yet when it comes to the symbolism. But this first one comes from a lady who's really into astrology. And so we're going to play again. You tell me if she's reaching or if there's something here. All right, so here's the first astrology theory we got here.
I think so many people miss this, but if you look directly down at the shadow that is cast, that is very symbolic of the hanged man in tarot, okay? That is 100% the hangman in tarot. There is something inevitable that will happen, and we are just in the delay.
So the hangman in tarot, okay, I'm not knowledgeable about tarot cards. And so here's what the card says. The hangman is illness, prophecy, sacrifice, transition, uncertainty, waiting, imprisonment. Then down here it says positives, spiritual development, gifted diviners, having to wait, transitions, improve, divination, psychic ability. Negatives, suicide, prison sentences, ill health, uncertain outcomes, playing the waiting game. All right, that's what the card says.
Right, and that's kind of what the hanged man is all about, and that's what it represents in the tarot card deck. And I just don't think that people understand like how significant all this symbolism is, especially with this happening in New Orleans. You know, when like Rome was falling, they had people in domes fighting lions and stuff. And here they are, the NFL halftime show, and they're inside of Caesar's dome. And Caesar, you know, was a notorious dictator, but all the way to like the Luther song, the line where he drops like Roman numeral 7, baby. Like that's a Cleopatra reference. Like we are talking about like ancient, archival, spiritual, contextual like receipts. He is like giving an intersection to so many different things in form of artistic revolution. Like this type of symbolism is just incredible to me.
This type of symbolism is just incredible to her. Now, this caption is a trip. Lil Wayne should have did it, huh? Well, second applause, Lil Wayne. I'm ready for the card of 6. Let's see what he got to talk about this time. But the thing that also stands out to me about this this hangman theory, I guess we can call it a theory, since I do cover theory pieces here. This hangman theory is Kendrick used this imagery before in a commercial for PG Lang when it first dropped. And Georgia Smith was in that video. And big shout out to urban legend Will Evans. He did a video on this the other day. And he pointed out how this same position that Kendrick is laying in here, this isn't Kendrick, but that this person is laying, the fact that he's laying on top of the stoplight or the street light like this, or the prison guard light. Wow, I struggle to get that out. 1 second applause to me. He used that in a PG Lang commercial. And so there's a couple of ways to read this, is the point of me bringing that back up. But check out urban legend Will Evans' video on that. I'll put a link in the description because I thought that was pretty interesting too. All right, cool. This next one. Oh man, this one here, I got a little emotional thinking about this potential theory. I'll be honest. I've got shout out to my dad, man. My dad is a true outlier. My family grew up in abject poverty, and my dad was the first black man the first man in the family not to go to jail. Not to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? 1 second, pause on my dad. And so thinking about that and this theory made me emotional. It really did. So let's check this out. Shout out to Curtis King for sharing Suku's post.
There was one part of this performance that when I watched it back a second time, I got really, really sad. And I wonder if anybody else got as sad as me when it came to this part of the performance. Y'all remember this section of the performance where he doing the doo-wop version of Man at the Garden? He got the homies behind him, mouth full of gold teeth, fire. And then Uncle Sam pops in and says, oh, you got your homies with you. The cultural cheat code, scorekeeper, deduct 1 life. Damn. I didn't get to the levels of Sing About Me sad, but I'm looking at Man in the Garden with a new perspective, because what is the garden? Why was it raining in the beginning of the song? Like the whole visual just changed to me, and I'm realizing now that that man was at a cemetery, bro. It's kind of making me more sad now, realizing that they're all wearing white, all right? I know they're supposed to be...
Man in the Garden is at a cemetery. There's a possibility that Man in the Garden takes place in a cemetery.
Part of the American flag, but they also have niggas in blue and niggas in red. They could have been behind them, right? But they're all in white, so that's sad as fuck. My opinion. I think
I don't know if you guys caught that. Let's check that part one more time.
Kind of making me more sad now, realizing that they're all wearing white, all right? I know they're supposed to be part of the American flag, but they also have niggas in blue and niggas in red. They could have been behind them, right? But they're all in white, so.
Look at that. Man in the Garden at a cemetery. The doo-wop version has the Bay Area cats in all white. And they're angels. Representing for all the fallen soldiers. All of our fallen brothers and sisters. My brother was murdered when I was, 12? I was 12, my brother was murdered. He got murdered on some wire type stuff. He was a New York stick-up kid, and he would go down to Baltimore, try to get some easy money, and it didn't work out. Man in the Garden at a cemetery, and all the guys in white are behind him. Whew. 1 second applause.
That's sad as fuck. My opinion. I think fuck. Also, it's fire that he got a whole jacket dedicated to Gloria. That's fire.
That's fire too. That's fire. 1 second. Levels. Peel the layers back. That's a brand new thought for me. I've been listening to this album primarily since it dropped. You know what I mean? And I just never even put those two thoughts together. Not a bad theory. Not a bad theory. That's powerful. All right. Now this last one. This is one of the things that one of the most powerful lines that Kendrick said during the performance was 40 acres and a mule. Now there's layers to that too, right? I mean, Spike Lee's production company was called 40 Acres and a Mule. Samuel L. Jackson is a frequent collaborator with Spike Lee. So there's a connection there. Spike Lee actually put out a statement thanking Kendrick for, shouting him out and for the reference. But look at this one here. Elder lady recalls learning about the lie of the 40 acres and a mule. Her memory was sparked after watching Kendrick Lamar's performance and details who did get land. History isn't linear. It's here now. Check out what this lady says.
Felt was extremely important because they wanted to populate the Midwestern part of our country, the prairie. And so they offered 160 acres free and clear to people who would farm the land, ranch the land. I guess it was really only good for farming, but they would give free and clear 160 acres to people, and they had mapped out a huge swath of prairie land. And it was white people who took that land. And that's how a lot of our Midwest cities came into being. And they didn't rescind that promise. They gave 160 acres to people free and clear. All they had to do was stake it out. And this may be apocryphal, but I seem to remember in class hearing how there was a date and they had people lining up and they set off a bell and you could just go and stake out your plot of land and it was yours and you could farm it. And that was the beginning of generational wealth for a lot of white people. A lot of these people came from Germany and Middle European countries, and they got a stake in this country. And here we have enslaved people who were brought over against their will and finally released from bondage and promised for their servitude they would be given 40 acres and a mule, and they got nothing. And they had to start from scratch. Just a thought. Think about that. Think about how you'd feel if that promise was made to you and then you were just blown off. Okay, that's it.
1 second applause. I mean, I think that's a powerful thing to even share. And that speaks again to the power of the symbolism that Kendrick leaned into for this Super Bowl halftime performance. People of all backgrounds are connecting with this or looking into it at the very least. And in this case, this woman was triggered by this. Here's a comment. You are proof all generations can understand the halftime show. I'm so happy your video came across my For You page. This is why Kendrick's performance was needed. This level of symbolism is one of those things that travels, even innocuously, and sticks to our ribs like lyrics from Talib. This is one of those things that starts conversations long after the game over flashed in the audience at the end of the halftime show. And these are very important discussions, just given the state of where things are globally and here domestically. This lady is, what she's talking about here is why Spike Lee named his production company 40 Acres and a Mule. It's what Kendrick said, 40 Acres and a Mule, this is bigger than the music. And this is why, again, in my opinion, I think the temperature and tone around this halftime show continues to evolve. He said it's bigger than the music. And with the symbolism he put on display, those conversations are traveling way past the music. I mean, look at these 3 examples we just looked at. We've got tarot card reading. We've got, systemic trauma from a country that is profited off of slave labor. And we've got, an old white lady remembering how European peasants were given free land to start their generational wealth, all because of a Super Bowl performance. Life through the lens of hip hop. Let me know what you guys think about all this. My name is Justin Hunt. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow at The Company Man on everything. It's all happening.
Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. The mathematical breakdown of this mighty game of rap we in. It's boom happening. Systematical culture views us radical, it's all happening. Shaking hands and dabbing it. Life through the lens of hip hop, from trip hop to yes, y'all, you don't stop, you don't stop. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening.